Among the treasures, more fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Fox's Trey Yingst is in Jerusalem with the latest.
Another one's getting out. He's dusting himself off. He's getting dressed.
As far as we know, this is the biggest and oldest intact basket in Israel.
Books like Jubilees and Enoch offer different takes on religion that didn't make it into the usual Jewish texts, but show up in some Christian ones. All this controversy is found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which hold some truly strange tales and were just unearthed by a drone in the deep sea. They, along with unique documents from a group in Qumran, like the Community Rule and the War Scroll, reveal a bunch of different and intense beliefs people had back during the Second Temple period. What if these texts were hidden away for darker reasons than we can imagine? Welcome to the shocking, long-lost secrets of religion that spiritual leaders are hiding from the public. The Last Truth from Ancient Scrolls. In a thrilling encounter of modern technology and ancient history, a deep-sea drone has recently found more pieces of the Dead Sea Scrolls hidden in a dark, forgotten cave. This amazing discovery has caused a lot of excitement among historians and scholars around the world as these ancient writings that were hidden underwater come to light again. Imagine the drone moving through the deep, dark water, its lights cutting through the darkness to uncover old relics from a long-lost time. This find brings fresh perspectives to our understanding of ancient religious writings. This discovery has made waves far beyond the academic world, inspiring and intriguing everyone who hears about it. The old echoes of history are felt through time, as these valuable scrolls, once lost in the depths of the ocean, are now ready to reveal more ancient secrets. They promise to deepen our understanding of ancient cultures and provide new insights that could change how we view history. Through this remarkable interaction between cutting-edge technology and ancient wisdom, the past reaches out to the present, offering its treasures again and continuing to enrich our knowledge of human history with its enduring truths. The Dead Sea Scrolls are an intriguing collection of texts that go beyond the standard Jewish religious books. They include texts adopted by some Christian groups, like the books of Jubilees and Enoch, offering different religious stories not found in traditional Jewish scriptures. These scrolls also contain unique writings from the Qumran community, such as the Community Rule, the War Scroll, and the Temple Scroll, which give rules for communal living, predict end-of-the-world battles, and describe temple ceremonies. The discovery of these scrolls has greatly changed our understanding of Jewish religious life during the Second Temple period, showing a wide variety of religious beliefs and practices among Jews at that time, which helps us better understand the religious setting that influenced early Christianity. These scrolls are particularly interesting because they include unusual texts, like Jubileans and Enoch, revealing alternative religious stories that could have challenged the dominant religious authorities at the time. Some Christian groups valued these texts, highlighting their significant impact across different religious communities. These documents not only enrich our understanding of religious diversity, but also emphasize the complex relationships between religious authority and dissent during a key time in religious history. Additionally, the Qumran community's writings are unique. They provide detailed rules for daily living, preparing for a prophesied apocalyptic war, and conducting religious rituals in a new temple, showing that this community was actively preparing for significant expected divine events. The discovery of these scrolls has illuminated the complexity and variety of Jewish religious life in this ancient period. It shows that there wasn't just one set of beliefs, but many different ideas and groups, each influencing religious practices and beliefs over time. This diversity captured in the Dead Sea Scrolls offers important insights into Jewish history and challenges the simple narrative of religious tradition, showing that history is often more complex than it appears. These scrolls are vital for understanding the diverse and often disputed nature of early Jewish and Christian religious history, providing valuable information for scholars and sparking discussions and debates about the evolution of religious texts and practices. Among the writings they left, the biblical manuscripts are especially important. They are much older than any previous versions and help scholars understand how the Hebrew Bible was formed over time. The Great Isaiah Scroll is one of these manuscripts and is very important. It contains the complete book of Isaiah and helps scholars see the different ways this text was understood and interpreted before the Bible was standardized. These manuscripts are very valuable for understanding the history and development of religious texts. However, it could also be said that the Essenes were more interested in showing that the gods favored them because of their pure way of living than in helping everyone in their society. This raises questions about how inclusive and welcoming their community really was. Their history gives us a chance to think about how groups use religious beliefs to separate themselves from others and what impact this has on society as a whole. The Nag Hammadi Library, found in 1945 near a small village in Egypt, is more than just an archaeological find. This collection, primarily Gnostic texts from the 4th century, contrasts sharply with the mainstream Christian beliefs of the time, offering unique and often controversial Christian perspectives. The library includes 52 writings, each presenting a different view on religious themes. The way these texts were hidden in a large clay pot underground suggests a desperate effort to protect these radical ideas from destruction by dominant religious authorities. The discovery of these texts reveals not only disagreements within early Christian communities, but also the extent to which different viewpoints were suppressed. These manuscripts challenge the unified story often told about early Christianity by showing a broad range of beliefs that were once considered incorrect or dangerous. They remind us that what we learn from history isn't always the full or most common belief, but rather what those in power chose to preserve and promote. The Gnostics, who sought a personal and mystical understanding of the divine, were viewed as a threat to a religious system that valued agreement and uniformity. Finding the Nag Hammadi texts is like uncovering a hidden chapter of history, continually challenging traditional religious authorities by highlighting the rich diversity and debate that existed within early Christian thought. But be careful, as there are forbidden texts that many religious leaders want to hide from you: the excluded stories of sacred scriptures. The Book of Enoch, which claims to be written by Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, doesn't quite fit into the main religious texts used in Judaism or Christianity today. However, it's highly valued in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which shows that sometimes the acceptance of religious texts can depend more on local beliefs than on a broad, shared faith. This book is full of strange and mystical stories. It includes everything from angels coming down from heaven to marry human women, to predictions about a future where a Messiah will reign for 1,000 years. One part of the book, known as the Book of the Watchers, is especially intriguing. It tells the story of angels who couldn't resist the charm of human women, leading them to abandon their duties in heaven. Their relationships with these women gave rise to the Nephilim, who were giant creatures, causing havoc on Earth. This unusual tale was written around the 3rd to 2nd century BC, and it presents the angels in a light that's not very holy. These angels, driven by desire, caused a lot of trouble, which is said to have eventually led to the Great Flood, a sort of divine cleanup operation. This story suggests that even heavenly beings can make serious mistakes, leading to major problems for everyone else. In addition to these dramatic stories, the Book of Enoch contains visions of the end times, when a Messiah will rule gloriously for 1,000 years. These prophecies seem to reflect the fears and hopes of people living during the time it was written, rather than offering solid spiritual guidance for the future. The Book of Enoch is quite an unusual text. It mixes divine drama with tales of catastrophic events and hopeful prophecies. Its inclusion in religious scripture is debated among scholars and believers, making it a subject of curiosity and skepticism. As such, it remains a fascinating, if controversial, part of religious literature. The Book of Enoch is a fascinating yet debated piece of religious writing, filled with a mix of supernatural tales and explanations about the stars. It's divided into different sections, each more intriguing than the last. Take, for example, its Book of Parables. This part offers visions of heaven and boldly predicts events like Judgment Day and the coming of a Messiah. Depending on who you ask, these stories might be seen as profound revelations or just imaginative stories. Moving on to the astronomical book, it criticizes the use of the lunar calendar by other groups and explains how the stars, sun, and moon move across the sky. This part tries to teach its readers about the heavens with a confidence that seems to demand agreement rather than invite discussion. Although it tries to be precise in its descriptions, one might wonder about its accuracy due to its preachy tone. The Book of Dreams goes even further into prophecies, with visions that predict big events in Israel's history and disasters, like a massive flood meant to punish human wrongdoing. This part seems to use fear to keep people in line, using strong imagery more to scare than to enlighten. Originally, the Book of Enoch wasn't written down but was shared orally, passed from one generation to the next. We know it was considered important by some Jewish groups long ago because parts of it were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Even in the early days of Christianity, figures like Tertullian treated it as a holy text. However, it's hard not to be a bit skeptical about why it was included in religious teachings. Was it really seen as sacred, or was it just useful for teaching certain ideas? The Book of Enoch isn't included in the main religious books today, but it's really interesting because it offers a different story from the usual religious texts. Early leaders like Eusebius and Cyril of Alexandria chose not to include it in the official collection of religious writings. They might have thought it was too bold or controversial, especially in its descriptions of angels, which didn't align with the standard views at the time. Even though it's not part of the official religious scriptures, the Book of Enoch still managed to leave its mark. It influenced early Christian ideas in a subtle way, as hints of its teachings can be seen in the New Testament. This suggests that the early Christian leaders knew about the book and its content made an impact, even though they didn't officially accept it. This kind of influence shows that the Book of Enoch was important in shaping some early thoughts and teachings about spirituality, despite its absence from the official texts. Reading the Book of Enoch is like discovering a hidden side of ancient spiritual beliefs. The book offers a unique view of the universe, filled with detailed visions of angels and prophecies. These ideas present a different take on spirituality that doesn't always match up with more commonly accepted views. It provides a deeper, sometimes startling perspective on the spiritual world and the cosmos. Let's see why some books didn't make it into the official religious texts. The Gospel of Thomas and the earliest Christians. The reasons behind excluding the Book of Enoch from the official texts might go beyond just its unusual ideas. Perhaps the leaders were also worried about the challenging questions it could raise among followers. By keeping it out of the official texts, they could maintain more control over what people believed and how they practiced their faith. This act of excluding the Book of Enoch shows how religious authorities have often tried to shape and control people's beliefs. It highlights the power struggles and the efforts to define acceptable religious beliefs. With its unique and sometimes controversial views, the Book of Enoch stands as a fascinating piece of religious history. It serves as a reminder of how complex and politically charged the development of religious doctrines can be, making it an intriguing document for anyone interested in the history of religious thought. The Gospel of Thomas, found in 1945 in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, is quite a unique text. It contains 114 sayings that are said to be from Jesus, unlike the traditional Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which tell detailed stories about Jesus' life, miracles, and teachings. This text, however, just lists sayings without any stories. These sayings are short and often puzzling, and they challenge readers to figure them out, which can be quite confusing. The text is grouped with Gnostic writings, which are known for their focus on hidden knowledge and spiritual enlightenment. According to Gnostics, this special knowledge isn't available to everyone, but only to those who can truly understand the deep and often secretive messages. The sayings in the Gospel of Thomas are mysterious, almost as if they're little riddles that only a few can solve, suggesting that real understanding comes from a personal, inner discovery rather than just being taught. Written mainly in Coptic, an Egyptian language, the text also contains some Greek words, showing that it was probably influenced by Greek culture and thought. This mix of languages and ideas suggests that the Gospel of Thomas was trying to reach a diverse audience or connect different cultural and philosophical traditions. Scholars debate when this text was written, with estimates ranging from the middle of the 1st century to the end of the 2nd century. Some think it might even be older than the other Gospels, which could make it a very early source of Christian ideas. Others believe it came later, and simply summarizes teachings that were already common among Christians. This debate makes the Gospel of Thomas even more intriguing. It stands out because it is so different from the other Gospels. which follow a more standard format of storytelling. It offers a peek into possibly diverse and lively discussions and teachings in early Christianity, showing that there was a wide range of beliefs and ideas at the time. The text's unique style and content challenge the usual understanding of biblical history, suggesting a rich and complex early Christian tradition. It's fascinating not just for the religious teachings it might contain, but for what it hints at about the early days of these teachings and the different ways they were expressed. The Gospel of Thomas was found amidst much disagreement within the church. It presents a version of Jesus that is quite different from the more widely accepted accounts backed by the early Christian leaders. This text encourages people to find the truth on their own, which was a controversial idea at the time. Key figures like Cyril of Jerusalem in the 4th century did not approve of it, suggesting that it did not fit with the main teachings of Christianity. This gospel did not meet the strict requirements set by early church councils for texts to be included in the Bible. These rules included things like being written by an apostle and matching the already accepted beliefs about Christianity. Because the Gospel of Thomas offered a more mystical and personal approach to understanding Jesus, it was seen as threatening to the control that church leaders had over religious knowledge. Its connections to Gnosticism, a belief system that was viewed suspiciously by mainstream Christianity, further made it unpopular among church leaders. Despite not being part of the official Bible, the Gospel of Thomas is still a very important text for those studying the early days of Christianity. It shows how diverse the early Christian community was and highlights the different ways they thought about Jesus and his teachings. The discovery of this gospel has helped scholars gain more understanding of how complex and varied early Christian beliefs were. The exclusion of the Gospel of Thomas from the Bible reveals the lengths to which religious leaders went to shape and control religious teachings, often sidelining voices and perspectives that differed from their own. This gospel serves as a reminder of the debates and power struggles that influenced what teachings became part of Christian doctrine. Next, let's explore a different view of a well-known biblical character: betrayal or destiny, the hidden messages of Judas Iscariot. The Gospel of Judas stands out because it shows Judas Iscariot in a different light compared to his usual portrayal as the betrayer of Jesus in standard Christian texts. This Gnostic gospel, which isn't included in the official New Testament, was originally written in Greek during the 2nd century and later translated into Coptic. Unlike typical biblical stories, this text is more about deep discussions on spiritual topics, rather than a straightforward story. In this unique version, Judas isn't the bad guy we all think he is. Instead, he's depicted as following Jesus' specific instructions, turning what seemed like a betrayal into an act that was meant to happen for a greater good. The text dives deep into conversations between Jesus and Judas about hidden spiritual knowledge and the true nature of divinity. Here, Judas stands out because he understands Jesus' teachings better than anyone else. The discussions between Jesus and Judas are heavy with criticism of the physical world and traditional religious rituals like animal sacrifice, which the gospel sees as outdated and meaningless. The other disciples don't come off looking too good. They seem stuck in the material world and can't grasp the deeper spiritual lessons that Jesus is trying to teach. This knowledge is shared only with Judas, portrayed as the only disciple who really gets what Jesus is talking about. This gospel flips the usual story on its head, making us question the typical roles of hero and villain. It challenges readers to think differently about the familiar stories and characters of Christianity. The text suggests that understanding spiritual truths might require looking beyond the usual teachings and accepting more complex, perhaps less comfortable ideas about spirituality. It encourages a deeper, more questioning look at religious beliefs, pushing the reader to reconsider what they've always accepted as true. The Gospel of Judas, which popped back into the spotlight in the 20th century after being forgotten for a long time, quickly became a topic of heated discussion when the National Geographic Society decided to translate it in 2006. This mysterious and controversial text challenges the usual story told in Christianity by suggesting that Judas might not have been a traitor, but a key player in a divine plan. This version of the gospel leans towards Gnostic beliefs, encouraging people to focus more on their personal spiritual growth rather than following religious rituals strictly. This idea clashes with mainstream Christian beliefs, and the authenticity of the manuscript continues to stir debates among scholars, religious leaders, and those who love a good conspiracy. Similarly, the Dead Sea Scrolls, unearthed near the Dead Sea in the mid-20th century, are an impressive collection of ancient writings that include parts of the Hebrew Bible and other texts that were not included in the Bible. These scrolls provide insights into the Essenes, a Jewish group that lived in the Qumran area during the Second Temple period. Known for their strict rules and expectations of a coming apocalypse, the Essenes also had a deep suspicion of the religious authorities of their time. The scrolls not only help us understand how the Bible was put together, but also paint a picture of a community that was deeply committed to purity and perhaps used their strict lifestyle as a way to avoid the complex social and political issues of their time. The scrolls serve as a reminder of the diversity and disagreement within early Jewish thought, showing us that what we often consider a unified belief system was actually full of different opinions and practices. Both of these archaeological finds, while greatly adding to our knowledge of religious history, also open up a flood of questions and controversies. They challenge long-held views and invite us to rethink our understanding of these ancient texts and communities. The Essenes were a group from the Maccabean period who chose to live separately from the rest of Jewish society. They were known for their simple lifestyle and very strict religious practices, keeping themselves away from Greek influences that were popular at the time. They didn't own personal belongings and believed strongly in following their religious laws strictly. This group was famous for their tough rules for anyone who wanted to join them. These rules were so strict that they made sure only the most dedicated people could be part of their community. Their religious practices weren't just rules, but were considered absolute requirements for living a pure life. They spent a lot of time studying and interpreting religious texts, which showed their belief in an upcoming end of the world where the gods would intervene. Their beliefs about the end of the world and divine intervention helped them stay close and united as a community, protecting themselves from outside influences they thought were harmful. The writings they left behind are very important. They include detailed explanations of religious laws and prophecies that show they were preparing for a future divine intervention. Let's look at how ancient texts were carefully saved and what they tell us. The Nag Hammadi Forbidden Library. The careful preservation of these manuscripts shows a deep respect for them. They were bound in strong leather with special flaps and ties designed to protect them. This level of care indicates that the people who kept them saw great value in these texts and went to great lengths to keep them safe. When these ancient writings were discovered, they underwent thorough examination by experts who needed to confirm their authenticity and learn about the history they contained. Today, these manuscripts are mostly housed in the Coptic Museum in Cairo, Egypt. Their translation into English in the late 1970s by a scholar named James Robinson marked a significant moment for the study of ancient religions and Gnosticism. It was the first time the detailed contents of these texts became available to a broader audience, expanding our understanding of these ancient beliefs. This translation opened up new doors for scholars and enthusiasts alike, allowing more people to explore the mysteries and teachings of the past. The effort to translate and preserve these texts shows a commitment to keeping history alive and sharing it with the world. While the original finders and keepers of the manuscripts might have been motivated by their personal reverence for these items, their actions have allowed generations to connect with a part of human history that might otherwise have been lost. In 1945, near Nag Hammadi in Egypt, some local farmers stumbled upon a hidden collection of ancient writings, a discovery that would soon cause big waves in the world of early Christian studies. These writings, later known as the Nag Hammadi Library, were an assortment of religious texts including gospels and letters, many of which offered views that were quite different from the traditional teachings of Christianity. One of these texts, the Gospel of Thomas, portrays Jesus not as the familiar Messiah, but as a mysterious teacher who speaks in puzzles and riddles, much like the wise figures in Zen Buddhism. These writings show a version of Christianity that seems strange to those who know the religion today, suggesting a path of open philosophical exploration rather than strict beliefs about salvation. To those who held traditional views, these texts might have seemed like made-up stories that challenged the core teachings of Christianity and painted a complex, mystical universe filled with strange entities. These writings fall under the category of Gnosticism, a term used to describe a variety of ancient beliefs that present a very different picture of the universe. In these texts, the God of the Old Testament is shown as a lesser, flawed creator called a demiurge, who is unaware of higher spiritual realms and creates an imperfect material world, similar to a character out of a Don Quixote tale. For Gnostics, true spiritual enlightenment doesn't come from simple faith, but through a deep, secret knowledge that seems more like something from a modern spiritual workshop than a traditional church sermon. The fascinating thing about the Nag Hammadi texts is not just their unusual theological ideas, but also the way they tell stories. They avoid the straightforward teaching style of the regular Bible and instead offer more imaginative and engaging stories. These texts show a form of Christianity that was not suppressed because it was necessarily false, but because it posed a challenge to the power of the church leaders of the time. The texts were found hidden in a sealed jar, buried in the desert, likely hidden there not out of respect, but as a desperate measure to protect them from being destroyed by those who wanted to eliminate such challenging ideas. Their later translation and publication didn't just shed light on the beginnings of Christianity. They also highlighted how much effort early church leaders put into making sure everyone followed the same set of beliefs. Today, these texts are kept safe in the Coptic Museum in Cairo, serving as a reminder of the complex and often controversial history of how religions are formed. They highlight that what we consider orthodox or traditionally accepted beliefs are often those that survived the struggles for power. Therefore, the Nag Hammadi Library is an essential piece of the historical puzzle of Christianity, showing us that history is often shaped by those who end up in power, and that what we think of as heresy might just be another valid perspective that was pushed aside in the official story. What if the Nag Hammadi texts represented the true core of early Christianity? Like, comment and subscribe to explore more intriguing perspectives on religious history.